The College Football National Championship still about a week away, and spring practice just a couple of months away for Iowa football. Hawkeye fans still buzzing about recruiting, transfer portal, and of course the Mark Gronowski news excited a lot of people. But equally as exciting is Iowa adding an FCS receiver in Sam Phillips, a kid who totaled over 2,000 yards at Chattanooga and will have 1 year to play in the black and gold. He has committed to Iowa. He is now on the books at Iowa. We'll talk about the addition and what it means to Tim Lester's offense in just a moment. But first, a reminder to follow the show on social media, both on X and on Instagram, at From the Hawkeyes, the handle. That's at From the Hawkeye on both X and Instagram. You can also find the Facebook page, From the Hawkeye of the Storm. Folks, we've hit 10,000 subscribers thanks to you all out in Hawkeyeville. Help us to do the same on our social media pages. Again, Facebook, Twitter, /X, and Instagram, at From the Hawkeye and From the Hawkeye of the Storm. So the Hawkeyes adding Sam Phillips out of Chattanooga. Stands at 5'9", listed at $185. Doesn't look the part, right? And I think there's your explanation as to why he was overlooked by so many schools. Cartersville, the high school he played at down in Cartersville, is a 6A power in Georgia. And, of course, everybody's locked into Georgia football. And Sam Phillips really didn't have many opportunities out of high school. How about these offers out of high school for Sam Phillips? He had an offer from Mount St. Joseph University, Huntingdon College, and Reinhardt. Those were his offers. Those were his reported offers out of high school. He ended up taking a preferred walk-on opportunity at Chattanooga, earning his way through his redshirt freshman year when he didn't play in 21, and eventually earned a scholarship. What did he do in 2022? Well, he ended up making the SoCon All-Freshman team. He was also named FCS Freshman All-American by Phil Steele. And then in 2024, this past season, he was first-team All-SoCon. And this kid put up ridiculous numbers, over 600 yards every single year. And you may say, well, Corey, that's pretty pedestrian. Well, think about this. Iowa hasn't had a 600-yard receiver since, Amir Smith-Marset in 2019, when Amir went for over 700. And Sam Phillips has done that 3 times and had, 800 yards just this past season. So over 2,000 career yards, 153 receptions, 9 touchdowns. And he's got deceptively good speed with his size. And I do think at the college level especially, and at receiver size, is way overrated. Coach John Patterson has talked on this very show during some of our post-game coverage throughout the last 3 to 4 years, even during the midst of the Brian Ferentz offensive era, how Coach Patterson believed that height was emphasized way too much. It was being emphasized way too much as it related to recruiting. You go back and look at some of the receivers that Brian Ferentz, Kelton Copeland and company recruited. They were a lot of 6'2", 6'3", 6'4 receivers that had big hands, could jump high, maybe. And certainly blocking is going to still be an important facet of playing wide receiver at Iowa. But a guy who can take the top off a defense, who can fit into that RPO offense that Tim Lester has instituted. We saw Jacob Gill really fit into the mold nicely, ended up with, over 400 yards this past season for the Hawks. So now you got Jacob Gill with another year, Sam Phillips with another year. Who's the third guy? I do think Sam Phillips is going to start. I'll talk about that third guy in just a second. Iowa got the nod over some other Power 5 schools for Sam Phillips. He got offers reportedly from Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, Florida Atlantic. USC also was in on Phillips. In fact, he was scheduled to take a visit out to Southern Cal, ended up canceling that visit. Also drew some interest from some other schools, including Cal, and also had an offer from Memphis. Obviously, the first plus you have to bring up is his experience, albeit at the FCS level, but it is experience. A guy you don't have to develop all that much. Certainly, he's got to learn the Iowa offense, but it's going to come in here and bring a lot of production with him. Appears to have really good hands. You see a couple of one-handed catches, not only on his high school film, but also during his time at Chattanooga. Reportedly, he had no drops this year. I saw that stat float around on social media here since Phillips committed to Iowa. I can't verify that. My guess is if you went back and watched every snap and every target Sam Phillips got, there might be a drop or two. But even just to suggest that he had no drops is an indication to me that he's got pretty darn sure hands. His wide receivers coach has talked about his deceptive speed. You can see it on tape. Had a really impressive 80-plus yard catch and run against Georgia State this year. And by all accounts, he's a hard worker, has done great in class. He's been a Dean's List honor roll student. And here's what's pretty impressive on top of those numbers I ran through earlier, the 803 receiving yards this year for Chattanooga. He only played in 10 games. The Mocs only played 12 games. And Phillips missed 2 games due to injury. His average this year was a career best 16.4 yards per catch. Really impressive stuff. Not saying it's going to translate apples to apples over to Iowa, but you cannot dislike that type of production, those numbers coming from any Division I level coming to Iowa and the Big Ten. And certainly there were a lot of other schools that thought very highly of the young man from Cartersville, Georgia. So we anticipate Sam Phillips being a plug-and-play guy and being a starter right out of the gates. That would be my anticipation. And then you have to look at that third spot. Jacob Gill was the number 1 guy this past season. There's no way, in my opinion, unless he just takes a nosedive this season. I don't expect that to happen with his leadership skills and his pedal-to-the-metal mentality. So I would expect him to be a starter alongside Sam Phillips. Who is the third guy? Is it Reese Vanderzee, the young man out of West Lyon that flashed early in 2023? Could it be Jarrett Bowie, the young man from Jesuit High School down in Tampa? Iowa also high on Dayton Howard. He's one of those bigger receivers with very little high school recruiting attention out of Kansas City. He was a Brian Ferentz, Kelton Copeland kid, but has made some play since he's gotten here. Or might it be a guy I think will probably win the job, and that's Seth Anderson. Assuming Seth can stay healthy, to me, he's got the best chance to win that other spot. I know that doesn't give you a ton of size and height, but as I said earlier, I don't know that you need as much height, the traditional X that everybody wants as an Iowa receiver. Maybe Vanderzee ends up winning that job, but I think with Seth Anderson's speed, if he can stay healthy, that's been the one bugaboo for him. He's been a little injury prone since he got here from Charleston Southern. Maybe another Georgia kid can line up beside Sam Phillips, and it can be a combination of 3 former transfers to get it done. But boy, I like the looks of that group, and it will be really intriguing to see what Tim Lester can do with a full off season, full spring practice, then fall camp. Yes, Gronowski's going to miss time due to an injury, due to a procedure. We'll talk about that on an upcoming video. But to have those 3 receivers, and I mean, like I say, Jacob Gill, Sam Phillips, by all accounts, just tremendous young guys, leaders, and they're both really experienced seniors heading into 2025. Huge thumbs up so far, and Tim Lester's to thank for both of them because they both got here since Tim Lester got here. That's Tim Lester on the recruiting trail, targeting his type of receiver, even without much of a reputation for Iowa's passing game. So really outstanding work in that regard. Folks, we'll be here late tomorrow night. I'm actually recording this on Monday night, so you might be getting this late Monday night. I'll be live late Tuesday night because the Hawkeye men's basketball team will be out in Southern California taking on the Trojans late tip time, 9:30 p.m. Central Time, which means our postgame show will commence at about 11:30 p.m. Central Time. Join us live right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm for Iowa USC postgame Tuesday night.